with broadband in 2 different countries, so I should let people know that you are currently in Amsterdam,
Yeah.
and I am in Miami. But you're coming across nice and clear. So Shu, I wanted to know, we were talking about concepts, right? And conceptual thinking in terms of the work between words and expressionistic painting. This public mural, which is really interesting because you painted on the corner of the right side and left side of the building. What was the concept of this mural?
Well, yeah, exactly. This is in Nashville, and the wall that they presented me was, you know, I didn't want to do one side or the other, so I figured maybe I'll do both, like the corner. And so since this is in Nashville, Tennessee, I decided to look into Johnny Cash's lyrics. And this is as long as the grass shall grow or something.
As long as the moon shall rise. As long as
So I don't know the exact title of the song, but so I took that part of the lyrics, and but it's all about, you know, water and nature and grass, and so it really came together. Like I said before, it's difficult to combine the 2 different art forms. One is textual based, conceptual, and the other is more abstract painting. But trying to combine those 2 is actually what I've been doing and experimenting with. And there's so many ways to do that. I'm still finding new ways to do that.
Again, you've been active around the world with your work. This mural, what country were you in when you painted this mural?
This is in Delhi, New Delhi, India. That was a great project.
And so tell me again, when you do these things, do you find, because your words are in English, are there, in terms of language barriers and communication with the people who are in that community, what kind of engagement are you having with these foreigners?
Well, of course, I've chosen English as my main language to communicate with, because it's just so widespread, and it's a language that I know maybe not so well as a native speaker, but you know, maybe also this gives me an advantage to kind of filter out you know, more important things. But this is in India, and people actually do speak, a lot of people speak English in India, but also, you know, I mean, English is just very widespread, so you know, I have no trouble communicating like that. But also, I mean, sometimes, you know, the words, maybe if people can't even read the words, it's okay. You know, they can still feel or see. You know, it's like a bit like music. I mean, you can hear if you hear a song in Brazilian or in Portuguese, or you don't understand exactly what it's about, but you can feel it. So kind of, yeah, it works anyway.
Yes, and you're right about this, because the mural you did for us at the Museum of Graffiti in Miami, the one thing that was very interesting, when people would come up and take pictures, they weren't sometimes reading. You know, some people just loved the color and the texture of the wall. And some were actually quite fascinated when I would say, oh yeah, he painted this with spray paint and ostrich feathers. That was always very impressive to people. But it was interesting, your approach to this mural. Again, the title of the show, Negative Space. Why negative space? What were you know, you kept writing things like the space between us, eternally.
Well, yeah. Well, the first thing that for me is important about negative space is not so much the negative, but it's the space in between the letters. Because if you do writing or calligraphy and you do a stroke, you create also the space in between the strokes. And in this case, I just painted the whole wall in colors, and then after, I didn't put an outline, I just painted the black space in between the letters. So actually I didn't paint the letters, I painted the spaces in between the letters. But then of course also, you know, it was dealing with some personal stuff, some, you know, I mean, the world and my personal life, maybe it's not all happy, joy thing, you know. I mean, there's yeah, there's negativity also, and you know, we can't just. I didn't want to just, you know, make happy colors and to brighten everything up, but you can also brighten things up with just black, or you know, maybe you know, blue shoe. You know, some people
Right, but
some people might think, oh, nice blue shoe, but you know, it's also kind of a personal note of my feelings at some point.
one of the things that I shared with the audience or that would visit the museum, and talk about this work, and I say, you know, it's obviously noticeable that at the center, the focus in the center says blue shoe, but there's no blue in the painting. What is the artist trying to convey? And it's really interesting how people start owning some of the writing, you know, and they would, you know, the people would be very curious about the space between us, and they would personalize it. And it was nice because there was a bench there and people can sit and contemplate on the paintings and experience them very, very calmly. And I also should know, tell people that that this exhibition is still it still exists, but in 3D space. We posted it up in 3D virtual space so that people can experience your show once again.
Yeah.
But this was a very important show because it actually, you weren't just dealing with words in your paintings, and we'll come back to that, because also there was quite a few beautiful expressionistic works, and I want to explore that with you because here you sent me an example of one of your black expressionistic gestural strokes paintings. And I found a reference. I was thinking about how it reminded me so much of Asian calligraphy. And Xing Fang is you know, it's a well-known artist, Chinese artist. And you know, while some people may look at your work and think of, you know, the ABX group in New York, and obviously Franz Klein and those guys, but there is something else about that, right? About that comes from graffiti, from the stroke, from the immediacy of just flashing something on a surface. Why did you try to venture into this kind of space with your work?
Well, you know, I mean, I didn't want to limit myself to kind of a medieval style of calligraphy, and like I said before, I mean, I'm still exploring, and I have very much difficulty trying, you know, if some artists, they can do one thing and they enjoy doing it the same thing, and I actually envy them sometimes, but I don't know, I keep trying new stuff, new things, and this I mean, especially that one that you're showing right now, for me, it's obvious that there is a graffiti kind of in there, but it's also maybe for somebody who doesn't speak graffiti, it's not. I don't know, but to me, it resonates, and I don't know. It kind of ties into the whole expressionist, abstract expressionism. That you know, there's magical works that have been made in the 50s, like Pierre Soulages, or you know, so many of them.
Niels, unfortunately,
like you say, Franz Klein, design, and I'm not an expert on that type of art. It just, I mean, they paved the way also for this kind of work. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, yeah. And so now, as we think about this work, moving away from
Yeah, you bet.
identifiable forms, again, pardon?
Right.
We're having a bad connection. Can you hear me?
You're breaking
Let's try this
up
again.
again.
Bear with us, folks. Let's get Niels back on. Hi, Niels.
Yeah.
So one of the things where I left off was moving away from identifiable form,
Right.
especially with this painting. I see a lot of ostrich or peacock feathers. Is that what it is?
Well, it's brooms mostly.
Brooms?
I think brooms, but you know, I mean, like I said, when I was in India, there's a lot of brooms being sold in the street. They're all made of grass. I think I made that huge painting there with brooms, but you know, natural brooms, not the plastic ones. And I don't know. In the case of those paintings, that whole exhibition actually at Gabriel Rolt's gallery here in Amsterdam, nature was the main drive. You know, trying to kind of translate nature and paint and put it on a canvas and just very expressionist. That's why you see all those fake plants on the floor also that I use to paint with, because I try to paint with real plants like twigs and stuff. You know, they keep falling apart on me, so that's when
You're not afraid to experiment.
Then when I decided to take fake plants. Oh, that's the most fun thing about it. It shouldn't.
Now, one of the things, one of the paintings, the series of paintings at the museum were paintings that were meant to look like each other, but actually aren't. You did insignificant and unsignificant, and both years apart.
Unidentical. Yeah, it's a whole.
Yeah, unidenticals. Yes. Tell me about this series.
Well, yeah, Unidenticals. It's just what I liked about those paintings. They're actually all diptychs. So I made two paintings at the same time, and I tried to make them exactly the same, which of course is impossible, but as much as I could, and put them together in a gallery or museum. It kind of makes the viewer. It pressures the viewer to find the differences, and it kind of, because I realized for a lot of people it's difficult to look at abstract art and, you know, to actually really look at it, and to make two of them almost identical, so unidentical, it kind of makes you look for the differences, and while you're doing that, you're actually looking at the painting much more than you would maybe, you know, if it was just one.
Yes, this is true. And as I explained this to viewers, it was really engaging for them. It was actually very satisfying to many of the viewers who came. And as for your message, your intent was very, very successful in that way.
I'm glad to hear it. So yeah, these were all in the show in Miami, right?
Yep. Yeah. One of the things I wanted to highlight about you was the tools. Tools and textures are really important to you.
Of course.
And while, you know, in some of the work, yeah, the writing matters, the gestures matter, but really it's the action and it's how you apply it. And you've been really quite interesting in the tools of your choice, from feathers to
Yeah.
brooms.
Well, this is a tool that we made in Denmark, made of 3 squeegees put together. And then what the other thing I'm holding there is one of those Indian brooms made of long. The tool is kind of it limits your control, and while sometimes that's not a good thing, but if you embrace it, if you kind of let go, you know, and you want to do something, a stroke in a certain way, and it doesn't turn out that way, it's part, maybe it's the broom's will to do it something different than what you imagined, and that's kind of interesting. I mean, that's to have that happen. That's actually what I really like.
This image that we're looking at with you in a boxing ring.
Yeah,
Tell us
that
about this
was
project.
that was a series of videos that I did with Mos Def, Yassim Bey, for Louis Vuitton, like a campaign for Louis Vuitton. So he would talk about, he would rap about Muhammad Ali, like in the words of Muhammad Ali, and I would write the title of that specific those words. So there's live, there's a couple of more, but yeah, that was great videos. They're still online somewhere. I don't know. You have to Google it.
So like I said, I was curious about your use of tools, but also your fascination with texture, about
Right.
giving painting a skin, a surface.
Yeah, the tactility of painting, I mean, that's also another big explorable area. I mean, there's so much to be discovered there, and also, I mean, the image on the left there, it's with the interference paint, which kind of, it's iridescent, and the one on the right there, that's done on silk. So, you know, you change a little bit, you change a couple of your parameters, and you know, something else happens, and just love seeing it happen. You can't really control all of it, but you know, it's frustrating too sometimes, but you have to you know, think still.
Yeah, on this one, on Blue Monday, which you exhibited, one
Right.
of the things that I've walked through, I've talked to people through this painting, and one of the things I say, it's very interesting in how dynamic it is. And yes, there's a letter form in there, but in the way you painted it, and the kind of texture you gave it, which you can't see on the image, it's almost like having skin tissue or muscle in this particular piece. And this was, I would have to say, one of the more impressive works that I'd seen in the show.
Thank you.
Uh, this certainly cannot be reproduced. It's quite a phenomenal piece of work.
No, there's, I mean, some of those paint blobs, they come off the canvas like really a lot, and then you know the brownish color, that's actually also that interference paint, which kind of changes color on a different angle. So, you know, I mean, from every angle you get different painting, really.
Right. We saw that with the lowercase h that was in the show, and that was one of the highlights when people would walk into the show. that would really wow people. It really wowed me in that, to see a painting come alive, but it's not just that it was just the interference that was coming alive, because you also painted black on black. And so as you investigate the painting more, you start seeing so much more life in it. One of the things that you shared with me are the works that you're doing now during the Corona quarantine. And again, it speaks to texture. Tell me about this work and the work that you've been doing during the quarantine.
Yeah, well, when this whole lockdown thing was starting, I was like, okay, it doesn't really change my life so dramatically. I mean, maybe go out a bit less, but I'm in my studio most of the time anyway. But there's two things that I thought, I was like, okay, maybe if usually I paint pretty fast. I mean, it's a stroke, it's done, and and then dry, maybe go over it again. But in this case, I thought, okay, you have do you know those petri dishes where there's kind of this culture happening, with the bacteria and all that. I thought, okay, maybe if I paint like that with different colors and just keep putting, it's almost like pointillism, but different, and it still has the calligraphic vibe about it. So yeah, I just took this time to experiment some more, and I mean, I'm doing 19 paintings. I did
You're breaking
14
up.
now, I think. Just set myself a goal to do during this crazy period. One that you're showing now is actually it's.
My apologies, folks. For some reason, we're having a bit of a issue with the connection. Bear with us 1 second. I'm trying to get Niels back on.
And we're back.
We are back.
Yeah.
So again, you're not busy at the moment, it seems, because you've been doing the paintings, but also you did a really big outdoor installation. Tell us about
that
this.
too. Yeah. That was a private commission, which was really fantastic because there wasn't really a lot of projects going on during this lockdown period, but I talked about this project doing it, and then we decided, like, let's do it during the lockdown because it's on a roof. There's it's not much interaction anyway. And it's a whole air filter system that these people, it's a private house and they wanted to have it painted. And the weather was magnificent. So I did this thing in about a week. So that was good times. And the strokes you see here, this is what I call also the installation. I did a show in Marseille also called Installation. Instead of installation, it has an un. So these strokes that I call the uns, like if you do the 4 strokes like that, it almost looks like a U and an N, which also ties in again with the word art, the conceptual, because un is kind of, if you put un in front of another word, it means the opposite. And it's about the ones and zeros. It's about, and yeah, I've been doing that for a long time. So it's kind of a a motif that I've been for a long time. And also during your museum, I did some flags like this one. This is called the Ununited States, and also the Ununited Kingdom. And you know, it was very, yeah, it was good for the moment because we were just. I think during my opening that we had the Brexit, and then Europe was all divided, and you know, all politics are so divided. So it's, I mean, ununited.
Yeah, those Niels, I wanted to thank you, and we're going to end on that note. And I
You
want to
still
take
there?
some questions from everybody. But I wanted to say how
All right,
powerful
cool.
and timely those paintings were. Really,
Thank you.
they're quite prophetic in many ways. So, folks, if you have any
Well, you
questions
got,
for Niels,
yeah.
please submit them. I'm sorry, Niels, you were saying?
Well, I just want to take the time to tell you guys, you, Alan, Kat, and you, and Allison, and everybody else at the museum doing such a great job over there. And I hope you can open up soon and, yeah, keep things going, you know, as
Well,
you will.
right. Next week, we go into phase one. So we'll carefully be navigating the entry into all of this.
Right.
And of course, your show lives virtually, so I would ask people to visit the website for that. So someone
Yeah.
asked, Graffiti Beijing, what do you think has been the European scene's most important contribution to the development of style writing?
Poof. You want names? I'm not naming names. No, I mean, there's so many. Come on. Style writing, what do you mean? Like hand styles or just wild style or yeah, it's impossible to
Yeah,
answer. Yeah.
that's a
But
very difficult one, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, Europe, I mean, there's every country. What I like about Europe is that every country, every city even has their own kind of attitude or style towards it, you know. I mean, and it changes too. I mean, yeah.
So I have another question for you
Go ahead.
from Christoph Kova. What would
Mm-hmm.
you call your style? Is it a mix of Gothic or Old English?
Well, it's actually textura, it's called, but it's a mix. I mean, I, it's they've been trying. I mean, they've been trying to categorize the medieval writings, but actually trying to put them in boxes is it's actually not really. It's, you know, certain monks in certain monasteries that would write in a way, and then 50 or 100 years later they would change things. And I'm not a scholar on this, but I've seen so much of it that you have the fracture, you have the textura, you have the more you know, script styles, but to me it's really personal. And I think back in those days you also had certain others, you know, so they would make up their own A or, you know, capital C, and they would do it
Right.
in Ireland, they do it differently than in you know, Germany or whatever.
So picking up on that whole personalization, All Naturals 777 asks, do you get a therapeutic emotion from creating calligraphy?
Yeah, but that also really depends on what kind. I mean, if you the photo you showed where I'm doing the repetitive strokes, that's on a broom and you just attack the canvas. It's a whole different energy. So it's therapeutic only if you need therapy.
Yeah, and some of us really do. You know, I have a question here from Spo. He says, big ups to Shu. My wife wants to know how to get a pair of those green stilettos.
Oh shit! Okay, well they were made in cooperation with United Nude. So the owner of that shoe brand is Rem D. Koolhaas, the nephew of the architect Rem Koolhaas, and he made a big yeah impression on the whole design thing, and so I went unruly shoe, and they were made in, I think, in black, white, and green. And the one on the photo is the green one. I'm not sure if they still have them, but I think so. And just go on the United Nude website or Google them.
Great. Another question here. Did your background in graphic design influence your work in any way?
Yes, for sure. And that's something I'm still trying to figure out. You know, I mean, usually I just paint, and then after I think, why do I paint like that? Or but there's always an eye for detail, very like almost like a type designer, where I mean, if you design a typeface, it's so specific. Like if you cut the corners, like literally, but it's the contrast between the big movement gestures and also the very fine millimeter kind of stuff, that that's from my graphic design period. Yeah.
This is going to be the last question, but this last question is very interesting because I was going to ask you about this as well. Do you look at Los Angeles gang graffiti or the calligraphy styles that are coming from LA, specifically Deffer, Retina, Chaz, Cryptic, and others?
Sure.
I lost you there for a second. Niels, hang on a second, Niels. I'm going to start again. Folks, forgive us for the technical difficulties. They are beyond our control at the moment. All right, Niels is back on. Hi, Niels. So,
yeah.
I apologize. I wish I had more control over the bandwidth issue. But the question was about your thoughts on the I don't know if you want to call it calligraphity from LA. I know we have Chaz, Cryptic, and Retina, and Deffer. What's your thought on their style?
Well, I didn't really know about I think you could call it cholo writing or gang graffiti. And what's interesting is that going back again to Dr. Rat, who did his Gothic lettering styles in 79 in 80, and what's appealing about this kind of lettering is it looks dangerous. You know, it looks a bit anti, like anarchist, or it looks like, and which is funny because calligraphy in general, before we started incorporating it in graffiti, it was more something that, you know, you could do, like if you're a housewife, you could do a course in graffiti, in calligraphy. So it's very dualistic there. But yeah, you know, I mean, I think it's great that these worlds that started apart from each other kind of met at some point, and you know, that's the beauty of the whole this culture, that we've been doing the same thing in different spaces, different places, and we're now uniting all our efforts, and this is what, you know, what your museum is all about.
You know, and to that point, Niels, one of the reasons that you were the first artist, especially a foreigner, to have the solo show in the back galleries is because that's a bridge, right? Because you know, up until that point, so you get to 1985 in the museum, Europe has already been embracing graffiti, and you were already part of that scene. So it's important to bridge that. And again, as you shared today, how interconnected we are, because as far as the early 80s, you were connecting with Dondi and Ramelzi, Keith Haring and the likes. So it's one of the very unique things about this culture that keeps giving back to us. It keeps expanding our horizons. It keeps making the world a little bit closer as we bridge it through art.
Yeah.
I said that was going to be the last question, but I have one from Great Bates.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he wants to know, is there going to be a book on the history of the Crime Time Kings?
Oh, well, yeah, there's a lot of talk about that, but it's gonna be a lot of work researching that and getting all the photos and stuff. I mean, I'm all for it, but I'm not gonna put it together.
Well, Niels, I want to thank you on behalf of myself and the museum and Alan Katz and Allison Frieden for all your support, your encouragement, your hard work, you know, to come to Miami and do a spectacular job with your exhibition and your mural. More importantly, at this moment, to share your story with us, right? This is a good time for us to kind of just step back and survey ourselves. And I really appreciate that. You're a really thoughtful painter, a really adventurous and exciting painter. So thank you for sharing everything you have with us.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you all for watching, and everybody in Miami too.
We'll see you in Miami soon, I imagine.
Yes, as soon as the travel ban goes, I'm there.
I'll take you up on that. We'll do some beers.
All right, man. Take care.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's been a real pleasure having you with us.